The Releasing Your Unlimited Creativity After Action Report Overview and Structure. Introduction. An after action report is about reporting and documenting why a particular action was taken, what was observed, and any lessons learned. An after action report typically addresses where the action was successful or not successful, and what should be done in the future relative to the topic of action, and provide any information that may be used in future action taken in the area of question. The Releasing Unlimited Creativity After Action Report addresses the observations and findings made in the journey of exploration of our creativity. The findings and observations are discussed in this series of recordings labeled as RYUC AAR. Transcriptions of the recording are posted on the RYUC website files. The After Action Report recording also addresses my experiences and any resulting advice in seeking to live my life based on the findings in this journey of exploration into our creativity. The intent of this After Action Report is to provide information you may find useful if you wish to develop and expand your creative ability and creative power, and to create a life worth living. Here, a life worth living is a life so rich and so full that if you died in this moment and discovered eternity is doing what you're doing now, life is so rich and full in opportunities and adventures and internally satisfying, you would be perfectly satisfied to live eternity exploring all that's available to you. Background. It has been observed, whether we realize it or not, our creativity and our creative imagination are our most valuable asset and underlies all that we do and all that we are. Our inherent creativity is much more encompassing and not limited to the usual way many individuals perceive creativity. Many see creativity as accessing different, if not new and original ideas, or creativity is seen as the production of artistic works like books, music, paintings, sculptures, movies, plays, and the like. However, our creativity extends well beyond the usual perceptions of creativity and encompass both creating our experiences and the reality of those experiences. In essence, our creativity is about creating a way of being in creation and experiencing creation. Here it is to be noted, to create is to bring something into existence. It can be a way of being, an object, an organization, or simply acting on a thought one may have. To create lies on a spectrum of creating an exact copy of something on one end of the spectrum and something new, original, never before seen or experienced at the other end of the spectrum. To create a copy of something, mind is very important to give all the details. But for something never before seen or experienced, mind is of little value. A truly original creative endeavor is to bring into existence something not previously experienced or significantly different. The human mind only knows the past and what it has experienced. If what to be created is something never before experienced, mind is of little value. As such, we must enter and live in the unknown for any truly original creative endeavor. The Releasing Your Unlimited Creativity understanding is directed at empowering our unique perceptions, our creativity, and our creative imagination. The desired endpoint is to open the door to access the depth and breadth of our creativity and move into as deep as possible awareness and experience of our connection with the creative essence of creation, which provided us with an invitation to dance with it. The Releasing Your Unlimited Creativity is directed at stretching our perceptions about reality to open the door to the depth and breadth of our inherent creative ability and creative power. Some of the concepts presented are analogies and serve a pedagogical purpose. One should not assume what is presented are exactly the way creation works, but are effective for our creativity and exploration of our creativity and of creation. Sources of information. The material posted on the Releasing Your Unlimited Creativity websites, the YouTube recordings, and this After Action Report reflect the synthesis of both the observations and experiences based on 4 sets of information. Each set of information provided a different perspective about our creativity which were synthesized into an overall perspective. One set is the observations of findings as a result of a conscious exploration into our creativity. This conscious exploration was much like any academic research study into a topic. It is compiling and studying what has been observed and reported on the subject of creativity, then performing some experiments to check the validity of what was reported rather than simply accepting what was said as correct. The second set of information is the observations and findings in response to the calling, "Who Will Protect My Children?" which I received in 1987 and redirected my life. This part of the journey was about understanding exactly who these children are to which the voice referred, and eventually learning how these children were related to our creativity. The third set is the experience of others that has come to my attention to be integrated into a coherent paradigm about creation. That is, what is the nature of creation that all of the reported experiences by humans could be seen as true? The fourth set of information was what I observed relative to my life as it unfolded and was guided to the experiences related to the observations relative to our creativity and what I experienced in seeking to live my life based on the findings and observations made in the journey. The time period for the collection of the information essentially covered the experiences I had in my life and the information I could glean from history and human tradition. At the time of this writing, my personal experiences covered the time period of 1951 through 2025, with updates that may be added after 2025 as additional information is gained and added in web or YouTube postings after 2025. The information from history and human tradition goes back through recorded human history and the myths, stories, legends, and traditions that go beyond what has been recorded. Much of the review of history and traditions went along with the third set of information concerning the experience of others and what others reported that have come to my attention to be integrated to a whole composite picture. These four observations and experiences were rolled together into a coherent perspective or paradigm of creation and provided with an analysis as to what I feel the observations and experiences mean relative to accessing the depth and breadth of our creative power and creative ability available to us if we choose to access them. The goal of this synthesis was essentially to create a paradigm about life and creation which can be used to assist one living in the world freely expressing their uniqueness and yet effectively engaging and dancing with the world as the world presents itself to the individual in the way the world presents itself, and the individual could provide what the world asks of the individual. The paradigm needed to incorporate all that I was learning and observing about our creativity, including all the unique subjective experiences each individual reported to experience. Given the nature of the observations I was making and coming to understand the incredible unique subjective perception of creation and our incredibly unique subjective creativity that we all have, I looked for some way to validate the validity of the conclusions I was making about our creativity. The criteria I use for creating a coherent perspective about our creative power and creative ability is discussed in the recording, the validity check used for the observations and conclusions of the Releasing Unlimited Creativity Understanding, subject areas explored in the journey of exploration into our creativity. The journey of exploration into our creativity involved three areas. The journey began as a conscious choice to explore our creativity and was initially focused on finding creative solutions to the problems that were being faced within the workplace. However, the journey then quickly moved into exploring two additional subjects. One subject was why I was finding so many successful but unhappy individuals. The second was coming to understand the existence of what can best be described as a presence within each of us. This presence was first revealed as a unique creative spirit with its associated creative life energy and creative passion. In becoming aware of the existence of this unique creative spirit within each individual, it became clear there is the need to create the space for each individual, for their creative spirit to be free to unfold and experience and create what it desires to create. The subject area of the exploration into our creativity can be summarized primarily as understanding what does being a creative being mean, and what are the implications of each of us being a creative being who cannot not create. However, in exploring what being a creative being means, 9 additional subject areas arose and were explored to some degree. One area was understanding exactly who were the children who needed to be protected based on the voice I heard mid-career, which changed the direction of my life. The voice that asked, "Who will protect my children?" when I was faced with a decision point in my life. The answer was eventually found to be, we each possess a unique subjective creativity and a unique subjective perception of creation that can be described as a child or the offspring of the creative essence of creation, which gave rise to creation. Understanding exactly what being the offspring of the creative essence of creation means and how it needed to be protected resulted in 7 other areas of exploration. One additional area was to come to understand our body is the chosen and perfect vehicle for what the creative essence of creation desired to experience through us. Another area was understanding how we perceive this creative essence of creation as a human being and within the human body as a connection with the unseen and experience in what can best be simply described as a presence within. This creative essence is experienced as a presence within in several seemingly different but interconnected ways. The first was to become aware of this presence within as a creative spirit within each of us, pulling us or pushing us to create something specific to us or expressed as our heartfelt creative passion through feeling the flow of the creative life energy animating our life. Or this presence within could be experienced as simply a guiding presence directing us to particular experiences in life. In becoming aware of this presence within as a guiding force gave rise to seeing the orchestration within creation and that we all possess a life path. Becoming aware of our life path also gave rise to a way to the possibility of understanding our personal life purpose. Relative to our life path, it was observed that some illnesses are part of our life path for the experience the illness can provide, or we develop an illness or disease because we fail to finance health or get too far off our life path. It was also observed that often there is a creative life energy that lies behind and is masked by the sexual energy we experience. Although the energy of creation included the procreative energy, the energy we experience which gives rise to the sexual feelings often lies beyond procreation. Rather, the sexual organs are energized by the creative energy flowing into and through our body. Each of these subject areas are discussed to one degree or another in the After Action Report recordings. The RYUC After Action Report structure. The RYUC After Action Report consists of a collection of recordings, each addressing an observation relative to our creativity or the journey of exploration into our creativity that the reader or listener may find informative. The observations are labeled by a variety of topics to assist in sorting through the information to find a given topic. There are 3 levels to the information about our creativity to understand our creativity and 9 topical areas. The levels are entitled Creativity Essentials, Creativity Foundational, and Creativity Application. The topical areas reported the findings and experiences are entitled Life Path Experiences, Reflections, Actions, Challenges, Lessons Learned, Items to Ponder, a pen warmed up items, Questions and Observations. Description of the levels of the information in the RYUC After Action Report. Creativity Essentials. An essential is something that is absolutely necessary for something to exist or function. Without the essential, whatever it is cannot be what it is. Creativity essentials are the concepts, principles, ideas, or whatever one may wish to call it, which I have observed is essential and necessary to be addressed and understood in some way by an individual if one desires to access and move as deep as possible into their own creativity, creative ability, and creative power to what is possible to create in this incarnation. Creativity essentials reflect information that is related more to the source out of which our creativity arises and our inherent creative ability and creative power. For example, modeling clay is used as the source to create various clay structures. As such, creativity essential concepts are more related to the modeling clay and the nature of the modeling clay. Similarly, using a music analogy, the energy is the creativity essential, the source, which can be used to make particular sounds that can then be used to make music. That is, the energy is manipulated to make particular sounds. The particular sounds can then be used to make music. Creativity foundational. Foundational items are fundamental and basic. A fundamental item is something on which everything else depends, like the foundation for a building, and the basic items are seen as a starting point, ground level, or the minimum on which to build, such as the building blocks used to build a building. Fundamental items and basic items are not always necessary, for it depends on what is being created. Fundamental and basic items are core principles, root concepts, and the like, or information that gives rise to creation within a particular form. Using the music analogy again, the energy making the sound is essential. The selection of particular sounds into the traditional musical scales would be the foundational or basic level. Similarly, the essential energy can be used to create the thoughts giving rise to the rules that form into various athletic games such as American football, soccer, baseball, and basketball. The thoughts can be seen to be the source material that gives rise to the rules which exist at the foundational level. Creativity applications. Creativity applications are related to the information related to the application of particular creativity foundational or creativity basic items. The foundational music scales and rules for the various athletic games give rise to the variety of applications in the world of music and athletic events. In summary, relative to our creativity, there is a stuff out of which creation originates, often seen as energy, consciousness, and a field of infinite possibilities, and their basic forms are properties which give rise to the creativity essentials. Creativity essentials are items that are essential to understand or be aware of their existence, for they lie at the doorway to accessing the depth and breadth of the creativity available to us. The creativity foundational items are beliefs, concepts, principles, and the like that give rise to how we apply our creativity. The creative applications are simply the applications of creativity foundational items to a particular conscious or unconscious creative effort or direction in our life. Relative to the information provided in the RYUC understanding, the information tends to lie at the essential level to understand how the information affects the foundational level and how it impacts our creativity, which we then have the choice how we apply the information in our creative endeavors. The RYUC discussions tend to focus more on the creativity essentials and understanding at the foundational and basic level, with limited discussions on the application. Here the philosophy goes back to the old adage, give an individual to fish, namely an application, the individual eats for a day. Teach them how to fish, the essentials in the foundational level, they eat for a lifetime. Topical areas of reporting the findings and experiences. These topical areas are a mix of fundamental or basic topics or application. There are 9 general areas of comments that can be made relative to the information related to using the findings and observations from the journey of exploration into our creativity about each of the levels. RYUC Life Path Experiences, Threads, Events, Roles. Life path experiences are related to accessing and understanding information about our creativity as a result of my life. They are provided because you may experience similar experiences or phenomena in your own life. This information falls into one of three categories: life path threads, life path events, and life path roles. Life path threads reflect a chain of events over time that led to a particular understanding or nurtured particular abilities or understanding. Each of these threads or chains of events over time were a story unto themselves. Life path events are something which occurred at a particular time and place which gave rise to a particular piece of information key to the journey of exploration into our creativity. Life path roles reflect roles I played which gave me the opportunity to change roles, play different parts, and obtain a different perspective about our creativity. RYUC Reflections. Reflections are about looking back and synthesizing information or looking at a bigger picture in the understanding of our creativity. RYUC Actions. Recordings labeled Actions reflect a decision made in my life in direct response to what I learned, or they are a recommended action I would advise another to take if they wanted to expand or explore their creativity. RYUC Challenges. Challenges are personal challenges or those challenges having a more generic applicability. Challenges are understandings which are a challenge to live differently than what we were originally taught to believe, or the understanding requires some type of action which otherwise would not be chosen to take. Something like a paradox which requires dancing between or with the two elements or perspectives of the paradox, sometimes simultaneously. RYUC Lessons Learned. Lessons learned are of two types: lessons learned which apply to me personally and my life path, and those that apply more generically to our creativity. Lessons learned are observations, concepts, understandings, or experiences that need to be remembered and applied in future actions. RYUC Items to Ponder. Items to ponder are questions to ponder and contemplate with no definite conclusions. RYUC Observation. RYUC observations are something observed that it is felt should be noted with no particular objective in mind. RYUC Questions. RYUC questions are interrogatory questions directed towards obtaining specific information related to an aspect of one's creativity or one's particular creative endeavor. The final topical area is RYUC a pen warmed up item. A pen warmed up item is an observation that are not in agreement with the prevalent view. The observations which I perceive rightly or wrongly are not in agreement with the prevalent view of the subjects as I understand the prevalent view. The category of observations entitled A Pen Warmed Up arises from a document comprised of a series of writings by Samuel Clemens, otherwise known as Mark Twain. Samuel Clemens was a writer, humorist, and essayist, and one of the most influential and prominent American writers in the late 1800s. The document compiled by Frederick Anderson was published under a title, A Pen Warmed Up in Hell, Mark Twain in Protest. The compiled works reflected Samuel Clemens' critical observations of the society of which he was a part and of his fellow man. The compiled works reflect an aspect of Samuel Clemens which many were unaware, and to some individuals it was surprising to find a humorist had such comments. Closing comment. The RYUC After Action Report recordings were designed to be standalone topics and subject areas. It is felt the listener will find what they need when they need it. As such, there is no particular sequence to the topics. However, relative to the topics labeled essentials, the journey of exploration into our creativity did reveal the essentials should be addressed and understood in some way by an individual if one desires to move as deep as possible into their own creativity, creative ability, and creative power in this incarnation. The essentials are numbered for reference and are not numbered to denote importance or a sequencing for listening. However, there are several labeled as core essentials, and it is highly recommended the core essentials be reviewed in their numbered sequence.